Hello, my name is Christian Howard. This is my week 11 presentation on the regulation of gastric digestion. Okay, so this is my title slide. This is just a picture of the stomach here. You see that it comes down from the esophagus to the stomach and then into the intestines. So, yeah. All right, so there are three main functions of the stomach, and I have them listed here. That's storage of food, digestion, and defense. So the stomach stores food. This is where it regulates the passage into the small intestine. Um, and then this is also where most of digestion and absorption takes place. I'm going to be mainly talking about digestion in this presentation, and I'll get into further detail of the different cells that allow us to digest our food. But also defense. The stomach destroys many of the bacteria and other pathogens that we swallow with our food. Um, and also, the stomach has to be able to protect itself against its acid secretions and whatnot. Okay, so this is just a slide showing the different gastric glands. Um, there are other gastric glands that I didn't list here that involve mucus secretion, um, but I didn't list them here. You can see in this picture the gastric pits here and the gastric glands lined up on those pits. And with the pits increase surface area to allow for more digestion. And then this is just a histological image of the gastric pits up here and the different gastric glands. All right, so the first cells I'm going to talk about are uh, G cells. These are called G cells because they secrete gastrin, which is a hormone. Gastrin is released by the presence of amino acids and peptides in the stomach. Also, something that's interesting is coffee also releases gastrin. Um, Gastrin's primary action or primary purpose is to promote acid release, and it does this by acting on nearby parietal cells um, to release acid, and it does this indirectly by stimulating histamine release. Okay, so this is my slide on parietal cells, and what parietal cells do is they secrete acid into the lumen of the stomach. Um, they secrete hydrochloric acid, which is a very strong acid, into the stomach. Um, this can make the pH of the stomach extremely low, um, as low as a 1. And parietal cells have to use active transport, or they pump um, hydrogen ions into the stomach uh, to create the acidic environment, and this requires energy in the form of ATP, and they use the hydrogen potassium ATPase pump. Um, uh, the hydrochloric acid in the stomach also causes the release and activation of pepsin, which I'll talk about in a later slide. Also, the acid triggers somatostatin release as well, which I'll talk about in a later slide. But the big thing here is that this is where the hydrochloric acid is pumped into the stomach, and it goes against its concentration gradient, so it needs the use of a pump, and it does that by way of the hydrogen potassium ATPase pump. Um, Part of this pump, this part of the process of this pump is that chloride ions follow the electrical gradient created by the hydrogen ions into the lumen of the stomach, which is where you get the hydrochloride or hydrochloric acid in the stomach. Yeah. Okay, so now this is my slide on chief cells, and chief cells secrete enzymes, pepsin, um, and gastric lipase. And pepsin is actually initially secreted as pepsinogen, um, but the acid in the stomach, or the acid, stimulates the release of pepsinogen from the chief cells. And then the acid or the hydrogen ions also uh, cleave the pepsinogen, and active pepsin is then left. Also, gastric lipase is co-secreted with pepsin. Um, Lipase is an enzyme that helps break down triglycerides, um, or fat molecules. Although not very much fat digestion actually takes place in the stomach, only about 1/3. One thing that's interesting is pepsin is works well on collagen, so therefore it works well to digest meats and other proteins. All right, and now I'll talk about some different paracrine secretions. First, we have histamine. Histamine stimulates acid secretion. Um, it is secreted by ECL cells in response to gastrin or acetylcholine stimulation. Um, Again, its target cell is parietal cells, and they stimulate the secretion of acid. Next, we have what's termed intrinsic factor, and this is created by parietal cells, and it helps with B12 absorption, it complexes with it to help with the absorption. All right, so lastly, we have somatostatin, and this is a negative feedback signal. It actually signals the stop of acid secretion. It's secreted by D cells in the stomach. Again, it shuts down acid secretion directly and indirectly by decreasing gastrin and histamine secretion. Somatostatin can also inhibit pepsinogen secretion. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good day.